are very difficult in our country, which have led to the suffering of a majority of our people in Kenya. So political leadership is very important, and we were very excited when we saw the formation of the new generation leadership aspirants, the forum, which Bright is a very, very active participant in. And we have also seen what the Kikao sessions across the country in the civic education, what you've been doing. I'll make 3 very quick points, and then I will hand over the mic to the other speakers. Now, my experience over the last 30 years, since we were in university, has made me understand that political power is something that you have to organize to take over. Now, Malcolm X is the one who told us that we are not outnumbered, but we are out organized. We are not outnumbered, but we are out organized. So organizing is the first thing that I want to speak about. So what happened last year with the Gen Z, and by the way, I've been involved in the work that has been going on over the last 10 years with the social justice movements, which manifested last year with the Gen Z revolution. What happened last year is that the young people were very highly mobilized, but they were extremely under-organized. They were not outnumbered, they were out-organized. This organizing, lack of organizing, has continued to be the weakness. And therefore, I'm suggesting that as we move towards 2027, we must strengthen organizing, because that is where the weakness has been. We need to know who is on our side in Migori, who is on our side in Mandera, who is on our side in Turkana, who is on our side in Homa Bay. We have to coordinate. That's the second thing. We need to know who are our people, but we also need to coordinate. And we need to agree on the strategy that we are going to use. And we also have to agree how we communicate and what is our collective platform. What do we stand for? That is the meaning of getting to be organized. Where do we get the resources that will help us to move, to act, and to ensure that we achieve the results that we want? Organizing is the most important thing for a movement to succeed in what we are going to do. The second thing that I want to speak about, which is part of organizing, but which is very important and distinct, is what we call narrative. What is the narrative that is organizing us, that is binding us together? What are we saying that makes us different from everybody? So we have to start to speak very distinctly that our narrative is that we have to fagia water, we have to drain the swamp, we have to ensure that anybody who has been in the executive branch of government has to step aside so that we get a government and a leadership across the country that can deliver the vision of Kenya Bora to Itakayo. So we have to be very loud about it, that we are not going to align ourselves with the top 9, as we call them. We call them the top 9 political augurs, the people who are the monsters, the status quo politicians, the legacy politicians. We cannot be associated with any of them if we are going to make a difference. As the young people said last year, it will take a revolution to find a solution. It will take a revolution to find a solution. So this is extremely important. Narrative is important. When we remember the Ford days, everybody was organized around Section 2A, the removal of Section 2A. In 1997, we organized around no reforms, no elections. So in 2002, we mobilized around a very clear narrative that was called Moi must go. You know, yote yawezekana bila Moi. It is not to it's not oversimplification. It is to simplify the message of the struggle. What is the struggle? And you know, every election has its issue, the election issue. So we have to decide what the election issue of 2027 is going to be. Let me conclude with the third point that I wanted to make, because the first point was that we are under-organized. And secondly, I've spoken about narrative. And number three, that we now must start to identify and name the people who are leading this movement. Who is leading the movement? How are we leading the movement? How are we connected? How are we coordinated? How do we deliver the results? What are the risks, and who is going to be responsible for mitigating the risks? These are important things for victory. So therefore, I want to conclude on this point that, and I'm borrowing from what Frantz Fanon famously said. And for those of us who do not know Frantz Fanon, I think I am requesting that you actually research and read about Frantz Fanon, the revolutionary from Algeria. He told us that every generation out of relative obscurity must identify its historical mission and either fulfill it or betray it. Betray it or fulfill it. Let me take that again. Frantz Fanon said that every generation out of its relative obscurity must identify its historic mission and either betray it or fulfill it. This generation of young people have stepped forward and they have identified what needs to be dealt with. I like the way they started. We are partless, we are tribeless, we are fearless. There was the point of leaderless. But as we go to 2027, we must not be leaderless and we must not be partyless. There are those who are going to run as independent candidates and they are part of the movement, yes, but we must identify the political parties that will take us to the election. For example, I am going to run for the governorship of Nairobi as Cyprian Orina Nyamwamu. So I must identify the political party that I am going to stand on. We must organize very strongly. We must mobilize, and we must ensure that we have identified our candidates in all the 47 counties. We have identified in all the 290 constituencies. We must go for the MCAs. We must go for the senatorial and women rep positions. And at the end of the day, we must identify who the presidential candidate is and the running mate for delivering Kenya under the banner of, the new generation aspirants. under the drain the swamp and forget water. We must be candid and we must be very, very courageous, because it is only the courageous, the brave, who become fortunate. Luck only is to those who are persistent and who are courageous. We cannot hide and lead. We cannot hide and lead. And so therefore, Bright and Kikao, thank you very much. We must remember that this has all been triggered by the courage and the braveness of our young people. The 8.3 million millennials and young people who did not cast their ballot in 2022, in 2022, we must segment and reach out to them. We must bring them on board, and we must ensure that the turnout is massive. Those who have not registered to vote must be registered to vote now. And then we must agree on how we are going to ensure that the election is not rigged in favor of the status quo. Thank you very much. I beg to pause there for now. And thank you very much for the session that we are having.
Thank you very much, Cyprian, for those wonderful remarks. Before I hand over to the next speaker, I'd just like to piggyback on some of your points. One, on organization. And I agree with you that, the Gen Z revolution was spontaneous. Some of us maybe saw it coming. I wrote a few articles about what was coming, likening it to the Arab Spring. And it came to pass. And after that, we had a period of confusion. The leading lights who had come out as the leaders for the revolution being infiltrated by the government, some of us being hoodwinked or, being taken into government or being considered for certain things that maybe were not realized, misdirection, propaganda. We've been turned against each other. And at some point, I think we especially for those who are on the limelight, we had a sense of lost direction. But I think the revolution is not owned by one person. It is not Bright. It is not Cyprian. It is not. It is not James. It is in our hearts. And I think we have an opportunity once again to.
Bright,
Sorry.
Bright, I hope I'm not the only one who is. I hope I'm not the only one who's losing you.
Or can you hear me now very well? Maybe let me hand over the mic to the next person.
No, you are clear, Bright. You're
James,
very
go ahead.
clear. You're very clear. You're very clear, Bright. Just proceed. I think it's Cyprian that has a problem with the network.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, as I was saying, that there is need for that organization, but power cannot be achieved just through agitation. We need to now start moving into the political reality of how we need to operate. And that calls for young leaders or new generation leaders that are coming up, identifying, like Cyprian said, a political vehicle. Because with a political vehicle, you can be able to have a unity of purpose, you can craft an ideology. What is it that defines what you want? And then you can craft your identity and then work on your political constituency. The reality of our politics for a long time is that it is deeply tribal. Um, and if we are not careful, we will be swept back into our tribal cocoons. There was an attempt by the government to bring back the 41. Sorry, can you guys hear me? I can hear someone on the mic, please. Can you mute yourself? Thank you. So there was an attempt by the government propaganda machine to bring back the 41 versus 1 campaign. The Gen Z revolution was based on a tribeless movement. There was that attempt, and then it breaks what we were fighting for. When you start to see each other as Luo, Luya, Kikuyu, for our generation especially, that is not why we got into this. So there is need for us to also, on Cyprian's second point, control the narrative. Elections are won on narratives. Like he said, In 2002, it was about, Kenyans were tired with the Moi regime, and anyone that he endorsed, they wanted a new dawn, a new break. 2007, the 41v1 narrative was crafted. When you come to 2012, it was about safeguarding the interest of a tribe, or some people were felt like they were being headhunted to go to The Hague, and that brought about a siege mentality amongst tribes, and then therefore informed the politics of that time. Then you come to the last election, where the conversation was about the hustlers versus the dynasties. So we need not lose sight of that narrative, that it defines how people vote. And the narrative as we go towards the next election, for me, it's about having a clean break, realizing that we are fighting an establishment, not just an individual. Ruto is the head of the snake as president, but this snake has a body called Parliament. And you've noticed, maybe if you're watching news now, there is a simmering dispute between the executive uh, and Parliament, which for me is very fake. I think it's the executive trying to re-engineer itself and draft a narrative of being anti-corruption as we move into the next election. We need not let them have control of that narrative, because they are the same political cousins. They're the same cats who've been around since some of us were born, And so there is need for us then to craft this narrative within political parties. And that's why it is very important for our generation to identify what is this party that works for you, right? And I think from where I'm sitting, that these legacy political parties for the longest time have hoodwinked new generation leaders, that you've popularized your candidature, you're coming into politics with clean hands, but then when you get to nomination, you're denied a nomination ticket. I think the parties that do this a lot. That tickets are being sold or auctioned to the highest bidder. That dilutes leadership. That makes leadership be already corrupt from the beginning. So I want to then hand over the mic to someone I've worked with before in Kikau, and who has also made the political transition into the DNA party. James, if you can go on the mic, please, and then we'll invite the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Bright. My name is James Okumu. Just to rise on the introduction that Brachi Temi did placed. We have been in a movement called Cacao, and we saw it tried to form it. Cacao is a movement that I served there as the Secretary General, and we've been able to mobilize across the country, and we've been able at the same time to pass the right message to the people across the country. We did decide now to have a political party, and as a speaker has put it so right, we cannot be partyless and we can't be leaderless, and therefore we need to prepare for 2027. Therefore, DNA is the party. DNA, as Brady put it right, 9 of the COW members are serving at the next level. And therefore, in that particular category, I serve as the head of political affairs. Just to go further in my introduction, my political background is that I managed to have served the student leadership as the student president while I was in the university. So when we get into this political space, we know a few things here and there. And therefore, we are very determined to push DNA to the level it should be, because we keep on listening and getting weak statements from weak leaders. And that's when you are told, shoot on the leg, and then they can go to the hospital. That's a very weak statement from a weak leader. Some of the faces are rising up, are appearing now, and I can assure you, members who have joined DNA party and are also members of the COW in this particular space, that it's not going to be business as usual. We can die, we better die for the right thing. We better be called out while doing the right thing. And I really want to urge so many of us who have not joined the registered in the party, as we continue to have the discussion, to register in DNA as members. Of course, there's so much in DNA party that we are working on as a strategy to counter this mediocre leadership that we all know about. And I've loved the fact that Cyprian has said is willing to take in Nairobi as the governor. Our strategy is to make sure we take over Nairobi first, and because that is where the power is. So we basically going to push those parties that believe that Nairobi is their bedroom. And that is something that DNA is very keen about. I will stop there so that we don't really spend much time on this introduction as we continue to speak and listen to some of the members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. I'm going to invite the next speaker. I think we have Dennis Haya. Do you want to go ahead and unmute?
Okay, thank you very much. A very good evening to you all. My name is Haya Dennis, and I reside in Nairobi. My rural home is in Bondo, in Siaya County, in a place called Central Sakwa Ward. I have been I lead a caucus group called Kenya Youth with Disability Association. My background is in law, so I've led youths with disability for around 5 years now. I have participated in student politics. I have experienced Kenyan politics both at national and at devolved stages. And that meaning I'm very delighted to be here and to read from the theme that from hashtags to political action, of which there is the point that my seniors here before had articulated so clearly in out of their experience in politics. And I was here to learn, I was here to listen, and to just to add on just to mention one thing before I hand over the mic, that what is affecting us as youths is one, lack of exposure in the political arena and lack of information. We tend to buy hashtags without really putting them into action. Because if, for example, we are having a hashtag of Ruto must go, then as ourselves, we are not even informed on various basics, which are numbers. We are not informed on the strategy. We are not informed on very other many things. How they therefore be, that hashtag will be put in, we'll see the light in the end of the tunnel. So really, I think as we'll be diving into dispensations here, I am looking forward to have a fruitful conversation. Thereafter, we may have now implementations of the ground that I know DNA as a party whom I've listened to and I've seen its leadership going around, that I trust that with seriousness at hand, things will really be sparked. Because I'm sick and tired of normal things and things that any other person, any other politician can do. Why is it that now we cannot do things that are unique, that would be easier to implement, and that will be very expensive to oppose at the same time? So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Dennis is a leader, in the space, and he's been working with persons with disabilities. So thank you for those remarks, and I agree that politics is a game of numbers, and for the most part, our generation has not been known to vote. And again, if you go around, you find that many people do not have IDs. Either they lost them, they've never went back for them, or they never got the IDs in the first place. Secondly, and I believe this is the biggest reason, because as Cyprian earlier noted, we have about 8 million people that did not vote. And for the most part, that happens because we don't see viable options on the ballot. I mean, if you have to go and choose between Ruto and now maybe between Ruto and the opposition, and you find really there's no difference, you're not likely to go and vote. And so it's imperative on us, as we organize and get ourselves into political action, that we're able to present the voters options at scale. And I think this is the thing that the regime fears most. They're fighting a ghost that they don't know how much or how big it will be. They know for sure that Kenyans have rejected them. They still think they can whip up tribal numbers and get there. They are still trying to, give propaganda out there that they will steal votes. But I believe that if you look at the 8 million people that did not participate, who I believe will participate in the next election, and between the last election and the next election, we'll have at least about 7 to 8 million new people, that we have enough numbers. If you look at the numbers, if you really study the numbers, you'd find that if all of us, millennials, Gen Zs, the progressive Kenyans, the silent majority in Gen X, and even the older people, you'd find that we make up at least 20 to 25 million of the vote. And it's about showing up and voting. So do not be threatened by people saying they will steal. You cannot steal an election where the margin is 10 million plus. And we need to occupy all spaces, from MCA to Parliament. Parliament is one of the biggest failures for our country, that they've become a rubber stamp for the executive. They've become beholden to a president or an opposition leader who will tell them to pass bills without even putting a full stop, and they will do that. And so we need the true change will start coming from there. So we have to attack Parliament in full force. And of course, since fish rots from the head, we ought to also find a presidential candidate that truly represents what we want in our generation. And so it's also important that as we do that, we craft this constituency that we talked about. It is, for me, important that at the very least in the next election, we have someone who's coming from this revolution, maybe a Gen Z, maybe a millennial, who's at the deputy president or president position. It is possible, but we need to craft who we are and then move there. I'll invite the next speaker, Dolphin. Okay, I don't see your full name, but please go ahead, Dolphin. Dolphin, can you hear me? You just unmute yourself and go ahead and speak.
Hi, Bright. Thank you so much. You can hear me from your end?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. I have a few points to make, though I'm so tired and weak about whatever is happening. People are so low. Things have just gone down. The energy is low. And I can tell that people are already tired of pushing out this government. It is so unfortunate. The previous speaker spoke about we should be coming up with a presidential candidate. This is right. And I think we are running out of time. And we should also move away from these hashtags, because we usually make noise when something happens, then we go back and sit. Like right now, all the things that we've been making noise about have not been aligned. And at the same time, we are reluctant, and the government is winning, and he believes that everything is now working on his end the way he wants. So I'd like to call my fellow Kenyans so that we can look for ideas. For those who don't have the ideas, they look for ideas. We should also start this to push for the civic education, so that when the time comes, like the by-elections are coming in November, we should be prepared. How prepared are we Kenyans? How prepared are we even for general election in 2027? As you can see, Ruto knows very well that he's going in for the second term, and we cannot allow this to happen. We should ensure that we make this guy one-term president, because once we allow him to go back for the second time, things are gonna be worse than what we are seeing right now. So I'd like us to bring back the energy we had last year, that organic, how do we call it, tribeless thing that we had, and join hands together and ensure that we push Ruto out. Otherwise, this thing is going to mess us up in the near future. And again, we should read a lot about the Constitution, what the Constitution says. How are we going to tackle the issue of, how do we call it, of impeaching the MPs, of impeaching the governors, and of impeaching. Sio kila saa tukitoka Ruto must go, but then we don't know the process and procedures. It is so annoying that some of us died on the streets when we were going to the streets, but nothing has been achieved. You see, there was a time we went to do what? To file for the petition of calling the MPs. But then when we read the Constitution, it was saying otherwise. So we don't understand much about these procedures. I think we should be informed enough and know how we are going to deal with these people and deal with the Constitution, and ensure that we align with what the Constitution 2010 states. I learned there I'm actually doing something, and you called me so quick, so I didn't expect I'll come in immediately. But I'm still here. I'll be listening, following through, and I'll continue contributing more. Thank you so much, Bright. And I'll speak more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolphin, for those remarks. I think I agree with you in terms of being organized. We need to already see the fruits of our labor in terms of the revolution in the by-elections. And as DNA, we are really working hard to make sure that we are fielding candidates who are strong, but also who are different from what we've seen before. And that through those small steps, that the voice of Kenyans can already be seen, that the change is already happening. You know, when we went in the streets, I remember in 2024, we were saying that Kufa dereva Kufa Makanga. And dereva back then was Ruto. The Makanga was Mr. Gashagua, who now has gone into the opposition and is now rebranded as the opposition leader. We also have the mechanic, who is Mr. Odinga, who is now the one who ensured that this government can sustain itself up to 2027, even though it's on one leg. We ought to be careful that we don't jump from the frying pan into the fire, realizing, and I mentioned this in another conversation I had on a podcast, that all these people are political animals that have been there since 1990s, 1985. These are the same people who play a game of musical chairs when it comes to leadership. They marry when they deem fit, when their interests align, and they divorce. And as they do that, they create fractures and tension and fights amongst their people. It is not too long ago when the ODM had signed a power sharing pact with the Uhuru government, and the conversation then was very different. Now, there's a new power sharing agreement. The conversation is turning into something very different. So it is time for us to call the game over, that we will not play this game of musical chairs with leadership anymore. In any case, in 10 years' time, most of these political leaders will have expired. And I don't wish them badly, but I'm saying that out of knowledge that there's only so long people will be on this earth. And because of that, it is upon us that we are able to take the mantle of this leadership. Because if we let it be, you'll have the mentees of the current political class. You know, these people who are now in power are mentees of the Moi regime. These are Moi's orphans who have grown in the system and are now the leaders. They keep rebranding themselves. So if we let it happen, the cycle will repeat itself. And maybe 20, 30 years from now, our kids will be back in this same conversation. So we need to be careful that we are not removing Ruto for another Ruto. And lastly, as I hand over to the next speaker, is also to realize that even amongst ourselves, amongst the new generation that's coming up in leadership and in politics, we still have some bad apples among us. And that's why crafting an ideology is very important. The truth is, our parties do not stand for anything. That's why it's very easy for governments or politicians to merge and divorce at will, because they really stand for nothing ideologically, apart from the opportunity to steal and the opportunity to enrich themselves and their families. So it is very important that we make this change. It is also very important that I know some of us are operating in different political, but there will be a time that we have to think about unity of purpose, because we are dealing with an animal that cannot be slain if we are divided. That at some point, we have to realize that we have a common goal, and this common goal has to be achieved. And now we are, as Dolphy said, we are about 2 years. We are maybe not as prepared as we ought to be, and therefore it calls for very quick. We already fall short in terms of certain parameters when it comes to fundraising and the other parameters that have been used for politics. But I believe that in this generation where you don't need to be in mainstream legacy media to make points, you don't need to buy space in the newspaper to speak to millions of Kenyans. You can leverage platforms. It is an opportunity of a lifetime. And we live in a time where revolutions happen basically online. It happened last year, like it is happening in other places. So I'll invite the next speaker. Seska, I don't know if you have something to add before I the next speaker to come on.
Hey, mnanisikia? Can you hear me? Mnanisikia? Give me 100. Nijue
Very well.
tunasikizana.
Very well.
Ni kama Kasongo ameamua kudrop nini account ya kikao. We are trying to log in with the kikao account, ni kama ichukui. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to add something kenye Bright umekuwa ukisema. Mimi ni Gen Z. I'm actually mwenye nijui. I don't think I made some introduction here. My name is Moses Gitao. I'm a youth, Gen Z. Sitasema miaka, but I'm a very young person who is being mentored by Brett Shitemi. Tumekuwa tukiongelea hii story kwa X since kitambo up to now, but sasa tumeona being leader is actually causing us, because tunaleta spaces, watu wana join, tuna push hashtags, and then ikifika point fulani, some of us are being bought by politicians, wengine wanaenda waneko kwa payroll huko, so imekuwa ni mchezo wa patapotea. Sasa to a point of we sat down as youths, tuka agree we need to find a party that aligns with our ideas, a party that aligns na mambo yenye sisi watu wa young tunataka. Na kisema youth power is the future, lazima tungekuwa real about what you need to thrive. Na tukasema political party yenye tutaipata yenye ina prioritize needs zetu, aspirations zetu ina unlock opportunities za create a brighter future for others Kenyans youth. That's why tuka choose DNA. Unajua ukisema tuko tribeless, leaderless na nini, yes tuko sawa, lakini kama hatuna msee ana to guide, hatuna msee mwenye tunafaa kufuata, inakuwa ni movement tu by wave tu. At some point tunapata wengine walikuwa na spaces, washaingia kwa political parties zenye wamekuwa kizipiga, like tumekuwa tukihot spaces tukisema Kasongo wafanyi, nani afanyi, and then at the end of it all unapata wengine wetu wameenda wamewajoin. Kwa nini? Juu hatuna leaders. So we sat down, youth wengi Kenya mzima, we wanted a political party that is going to guide us. Tutasema tuko leaderless, yes, and the moment tuko leaderless wanapata wako na power mob sana ya kutumanipulate, and it's not gonna help us. Ndio maana tuka choose DNA, Democratic National Alliance. It aligns with our ideas and our visions. But pia wao wakienda waanze kufanya mambo zao venye wanataka, tutatoka. But for now the party is DNA because they are aligning with our ideas and ideologies zetu. And the people that want to be MP, my MCA, my youth kasi sasa unaniambia nitafute kazi, unaniambia unataka mtu akona 5 years of experience na mtu amemaliza kampo last year. Easy happen, kumaanisha hata hatuna do ya kwenda kuvaa hizo seat. Tunapata ni the old people. So that's why tumejoin DNA. Na sisi ndio tumekuwa to the streets. Unajua tunasemanga tuta change Kenya na tunajua mchezo ni ule wa majamaa because they join each other. Mtu kama baba, that man is so old up to now bana. Hataki kuachia kitu, aachi vijana wa lead the country. It's so bad. It's so bad. Tukianza kuranta hapa tutamaliza. Wacha nipatie someone else to speak. DNA kikao, unaweza chukua mic.
Oh, good evening, guys. I don't know if you are able to hear me.
Perfectly.
Oh, now, thank you. Now, number one, let me thank Cyprian for a very wonderful submission. I think it was the first to do submission. That was very wonderful. Same to Dolphin did a very good submission as well. So we are just here to give at least a space to each and every single individual who has joined us, at least to express him or herself, so that at least we get to learn from ourselves what we really need to do to counter or to counterattack this political regime or the political class that has really in a very long period of time felt so much superior over the youths. So as a DNA Kikao movement, we are very happy to tell you guys that whoever will be willing to contest for any political position countrywide that has also joined us here, feel free to request the mic so that at least you're given time to speak. You tell us what you really think. You can share with us your ideologies so that at least we can subscribe to one or two or all the ideas if possible, so that at least we work together for a better future and for a better Kenya. Like you guys all know that when the leading cow is lame, always the entire herd will never never get to the pasture. So DNA Kikao here has decided to make a very good platform, or rather very good party for the youth, or rather the Gen Zs who have always felt left out. Because for instance, you cannot go to a youth here who is let's say below 25 years or below 30 years who feels like he really has the passion to work in leadership, cannot just go to ODM and maybe UDA and request for a ticket and be given freely. You have to accept, or you have to agree with me that you will have to pay not less than 3 million, maybe for just a mere position of the member of county assembly. So DNA party is here for you, for such people. Feel free, feel much welcome to interact more with us. We are here to give you time. We are here to listen to you. As our party slogan says, that your voice is your power. Get to speak to us. Tell us, share with us your ideas, whatever you think is right for the future of the youths. And maybe we are here to listen, and maybe we'll keep contributing as we go on. So thank you guys, and feel free, feel so much welcome. Maybe back to Bright Chitemi or Sesko.
Haya, Bright, utafunga nini yako kama tunakusikia. Dolphin, I can see your hand is up. Haya, Dikizo.
Hi everyone. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible, Sesko? Can you get me? Are you guys getting me loud and clear?
Yeah, tunakusikia Dikizo.
Okay, asanteni sana. So, kwa majina mimi naitwa Dikorongo ama Dikizo. Dikizo is my poetic name. I'm a poet, an active citizen. Nasikia siku hizi active citizens wanaitwa activists. So, mimi ni activist basi. I'm a community organizer na Kikao. I'm a young man from Kisumu City. I've been with Kikao for some time organizing, trying to change the political narrative about our region as Nyanza and the country at large. So sisi tumekuwa tukiambiwa sisi ndio nini tunaitwaje, we are the wale mnasikia wana adabu, tumeambiwa hatuna adabu, but what we understand as young people, I think I'll try to break it down nieke to the basic. Yani niongee tu kama ile a layman sasa You know, the government tunaambiwa it's a government because this is a constitutional democracy. Kenya is a constitutional democracy. A constitutional democracy inakuwa governed by the rule of law. Unaelewa? Na hiyo law ni hiyo kwa katiba. That's the supreme law of the land. So when a government inasema it's a government of the people, by the people, for the people ndo wanafaa kuwa at the center of every political conversation yenye ina happen kwa hiyo country. And to make sure this happens, no one is above the law. Unaget? So sisi tunakaa chini kama wananchi, tunaamua. So we need rules, we need order. Tunahitaji law na order. Tunahitaji fairness, we need justice. Tunahitaji all of these things, tunataka zikuwe. How does this happen? We enter into a social contract with the government. Unasikia? Before we even elect them, there's a social contract that we form before forming any kind of government, because our preamble inasema we give ourselves the kind of governance, ama form of governance that we want. So when we do this, tushajua, this is our governance structure. This is how we want it to be. This is how the representation needs to be. MP anafaa kufanya hii job, MC anafaa kufanya hii job, Prezo anafaa kufanya hii job. Hizi ndio ma limits, hivi ndio vile tutaweka checks and balances. Hizi ni vitu tuna agree before even you go to the election. You can never go to the election without a social contract yenye ni katiba. And when these people come in, they have to swear on that social contract yenye tuliform now. They have to swear on it. If you don't swear, you're not sworn in. And you do this mbele ya Chief Justice, if you're the president. Mbele ya Chief Justice. Unaelewa? This is another arm of the government. There are 3 arms of the government. Kuna executive, kuna legislature, na our said ziko 3 kwa sababu zinafaa kuwa independent. Zingekuwa ni kitu moja tungeka one arm of government. Msemo mmoja urezo afanye kila kitu, akue hiyo judiciary, akue legislature. So, hii ni contract tumejenga na to expect once we form a governance structure yenye iko na 3 arms of government, we don't expect mtu mwenye anaka kwa executive a usurp power ya legislature, ichukue yeke ni kama ni yake, inakuwa an appendage of the executive, judiciary and a compromise inakuwa. Now he's formed another form of government which we did not agree on when we were making the social contract. So sisi kama vijana nasikia si ni vichwa ngumu, tumeambiwa si ni vichwa ngumu, we don't listen, sijui nini tunasema, hey you guys, before we ever elected you guys, unasikia, and by the way we didn't force anyone to come and stand. Hakuna mse alifosiwa, even Ruto hakuna mtu alienda akamwambia oh sijui please come and be our president, we can't do anything without you. He came himself and he told us he had a manifesto. He knows that in this country there's a social contract, there's a katiba, a constitution, a supreme law of the land. He knew that before ever getting into that office. When he got into that office, he was sworn in on that constitution. He alikubali ku uphold, ku respect na ku defend hiyo katiba. That's what he said. That was what nini aliingia hapa kijua hizi vitu. So unajua by the time wanarudi wanatuambia hizi vitu wanatuambia hata si atuelewi ni nini. So when June 25th happened last year, the youth were not organized. Unaelewa? We were not organized because we were not after any political power. Hatuko nataka political power yote from these guys. We were just there saying, hey you guys, we had a social contract. Are you guys following the social contract that we had with you guys? Na hiyo ni katiba. Katiba inasemaje? Nyinyi mnafanya venye katiba inasema. Si mliswear by these things. Nyinyi ndio mnafaa kwa mna defend kitu. Kwa nini nyinyi ndio mna defile? So say wamechukua katiba ni kama a piece of paper, ni kitu yenye sijui anaenda nao ni kama hapo State House hakuna tissue paper, katiba ndio inatumika. These people, the kind of disregard wako nao na this book yenye inaitwa katiba is alarming. And now when young people just come out, we don't even, hatukuwa na president, we didn't even want an MCA position. Now, where was the threat? Where was the threat that you had to kill hundreds of guys who were there? Na hakuna mtu alikuwa mbeba a flag, a bottle of water. Maybe hiyo ndo tunaweza sema it was the most threatening ilikuwa a bottle of water. And the message. So, the bottle of water obviously was not a threat to them. The flag definitely wouldn't have been a threat to them. So the message was the threat to them. Because these guys have formed, they thrive on a superstructure wamejenga, and you wanna believe they are like monarchs, au ni oligarchs. We are subjects. Unajua katiba, the first article of the katiba inasema, we are the sovereigns, we the people. Sisi ndio wenye nchi, mwananchi, all of us. 50 plus million guys, sisi wote we own this land. There's no one person mwenye hata urezo power konayo, it's donated, it doesn't belong to him and we can take it back anytime. Hiyo ni kitu kwa katiba. This social contract that is swore akiingia hapo inasema we as the people can revoke that thing anytime. Hiyo ni kitu katiba inasema we can exercise it directly. So haizi tuambia ati mambo ya sijui lazima malize terms sijui nini. No. Once the people wameamua, you guy, what we agreed upon, kwanza you have defiled the social contract. Hiyo kwanza inafaa kuwa inakucancel out. Even before we speak, we say any other thing. Did you follow these things? Have you followed hizi vitu tuliandika hapa kwa katiba? Umezifuata? Haujazifuata, then how are you holding that office? You are illegitimate. So hizi ndio vitu sisi tulikuja nje kusema. And these guys murdered us because they were afraid of the message you are saying. And ilikuwa tu about accountability. Now we are 1 year later. 1 year plus later, tumeamua sasa, kwa sababu sasa tulikuja kuambia because you know by the time we were coming out, these guys had usurped every unajua mwananchi kwa hii katiba inatupatia a lot of spaces ya kuvent. There is the legislature, we can go to the judiciary if the legislature fails us. Unasikia, tunaweza rudi kwa representatives wetu. Now this guy is a system that has captured all these people. Yani mwananchi ana any other way ya kuvent formally. Now the constitution nakwambia when that happens, because this constitution ili realize kuna one day someone like Kasongo will come and he will atashika hii katiba, atashika every other nini ya mwananchi, where mwananchi anaweza tumia as an avenue of ya kujiokoa, ya kuleka checks and balances. So once a guy has trapped all these things like this, he has consumed the whole system, he has compromised everything, the mwananchi has that ability to take back his power and exercise it direct. Ndio maana kuna hiyo directly hapa, haikuweka hapa ati kama kwa katiba ati ikuwe kama nini inaitwa aje, like sijui inajiita nini, just an anecdote yenye inasemekana to a phrase that no, this thing means something. It means something because the makers, the founders of the makers of the constitution, the spirit of the constitution understands that these systems can be compromised. And when that happens, the power needs to revert back to the people. The power needs to revert back to the people. So whatever we have been saying, hakuna kitu mbaya tumesema, because if we ever said anything wrong, wanasema ni wakubwa wetu, si ni watoi. Sawa, hakuna mtoi baza. Kwanza mimi nasema hakunanga mtoi. Once someone is 18, he can vote. That guy is a Kenyan citizen na akona the right to choose his form of government yenye anadai. Na akona the right to recall those people who we have trusted with this power. We have donated our sovereignty to them. We have the power to recall them back. We have the power to point it out. Once you take a public office, you need to be ready kuwa scrutinized. Ndio maana inaitwa public. Kama Ruto na feel ni kama the pressure is too much, tunamtusi. Let him go and be a private citizen. Hatutaimfuata, achane na sisi. Why is he occupying a public office if he is not ready for scrutiny? So these are the things the young men are saying. Na hatujakosea tukisema hizi vitu. They want to make us feel like tumekosea. Hatujakosea. Unaget? Hatujakosea. Saizi penye saa imefika tumesema, tulikuja tukawaambia, you guys follow this social contract we had with you guys, kwa nini amuifanyi? Because sasa mmeziba kila mahali yenye tungevent, so inabidi si wenyewe tukuje tuwaambie, because you have compromised every other system we would have used, every other channel we would have used to air these views. Now we are airing ourselves as the people. Hapo ndo penye ilikuwa imetufikisha June 25th. Then they murdered us. Now sisi tumesema sasa, we did not come to take power. We came to challenge and to kuweka hizo ma checks and balance. Saizi tumerudi nyuma. Nimesikia Dolphin akisema ati momentum imerudi chini. Dolphin, momentum imerudi chini. Strategy is changing. I think that's what I can say. Sasa tunarudi chini kwa grassroots. Tumeamua now we want to go. Unacheki hiyo power walikuwa wanasema ati we are terrorists. We want to overturn the government. Now we really do want to overturn the government now. Because we want to overturn them na ballot revolution. Now we are going to overturn them with size. We didn't come for power. They killed us. Now we are coming for that power. So issue saizi ni atujaacha kwenda kwa streets. Streets are still an option. But turudini to organize. These people have money. They have resources. Na kwanza wanatumia taxes zetu vibaya. Na hizo taxes zetu ndo watakuja kununua nazo tena. Unasikia? They have systems that they have put in place, systems that have been working for decades. Hiyo ni political parties yenye zinakuwa owned by a few guys, wanasema sijui farasi ni wawili. They create that narrative in the media. Farasi ni wawili. Oh, you either vote for thief A ama thief B. If you don't like thief B, vote for thief A. If you don't like thief A and thief B, you don't go come and vote because there is no other option you have. So we have
Dikizo. Poa sana. Na textiwa hapa naambiwa kwanza tupeane mic, wasipatwe na hasira tena sana waende. Keep the energy going. Naona Fabish ameinua mkono. Mzee Fabish, umepotea sana bwana.
Asante sana Sesko, Bright Chitemi na kila moja. Sijapotea Sesko, niko sana. Na thanks kwa wena Bright na kikao, by kuweka hiki kikao. Sitakuwa na mengi ya kuchangia, lakini tunataka kusema maybe mawili ama matatu. Kwanza nataka kusema vile mambo tunavyoona sasa kwa nchi. Sasa watezi wetu sasa wanapigana wenyewe kwa wenyewe. You know, like when hyenas go and hunt, wakishaua swara, wenyewe wanaanza kupigana. Now, lakini bado tuko na safari ndefu na tuko na mlima. And in my opinion, kwanza, I'm sorry, maybe I will disappoint expectation of many. because I think sometimes we have what I say, false hope. I've been saying, and I keep on insisting saying that it is very difficult to do what we call ballot revolution in this kind of system, in the setup of this system. It's very difficult, nearly impossible. That is the reality and the facts that we have to, keep to ourselves. People have been saying about the constitution that we have. This same constitution, it is part of the document that is oppressing us. The same constitution about tunaongea. And I give you 2 instances. Do you know right now we are paying Margaret Kenyatta, the wife of the first president of this country, 500,000 every month, and we will continue paying her until her death. What does she do with our money? Where is the value of our money? Now, you ni mambo mbona? Yeah?
Hatujui hiyo bwana. Unajua tutaki tuseme watu kuja kututafuta. Is it in the constitution that they have to pay 500,000 a month?
And it is there. You can verify from anywhere. She's paid 500,000 from Exchequer, and it is still going on. Margaret Kenyatta the second, pia bado anapata the portion. That is not even a problem. Now I want to ask, if in the constitution there is something that is called equality and equity, then where is the rationale? Why do we have a teacher that has served for 40 good years or he dies? Bibi yake ama bwanake hawezi kupata hiyo pesa anapatiwa mpaka na yeye akufe. Why do we have a police officer that is served this country? Hata wengine wanamalizaga kama wamekuwa kiwete, but akikufa the spouse doesn't get anything benefit. In fact, hata hiyo pension yake kidogo alikuwa ameweka, they might even end up losing it. And it's the same constitution that you are saying it is guaranteeing equality and equity. That is one form of oppression. And this one you can go and verify. Why do we have someone serving for only 10 years and is given millions ati inasemekana ni pension na bado analindwa hata na maskari atakiwa nyumbani for only 10 years that he served? And yet we have people that they have served this country mpaka nywele zimekuwa nyeupe, some even 40 years, and yet they die poor. And yet we are saying we have a document ambayo inasema equality and equity. The problem that we have is the political elites supported by the system, the capitalistic ideology, the model of economy. This system, as far as it is still in place, we will never prosper. I keep on saying always, what we need is a revolution. And stop this about tunasema kwamba at ballot revolution. Ballot revolution cannot work in this system because the ballot itself is controlled by the very system that is meant to oppress us. Now I don't know what is that we call ballot revolution. Right now you see a whole president coming to confess in public that the executive is giving bribe to the legislature. If indeed the constitution is working, that government should have resigned from yesterday. That the executive coming to say that they bribe the legislature, and the president without any shame telling the country while he have all the tool of power, and he say he's a consumer of raw intelligence. He's a consumer of raw intelligence ambao anajua kwamba ni nani alienda akapatia nani pesa, lakini he decided to close his eyes and come and play PR and prosecute it in public, and we just laugh and clap and say Ruto now want to fight corruption. When you already have, this is the second time the former president also confessed in public that nchi inapoteza 2 billion every day na mnataka nifanye nini? I might agree with them because it is the system that supports them. Give them that power. Kwamba they can just there to manage the looters. Now, they are playing PR kuonyesha kwamba they are fighting each other. And yet tumenyamaza. This is the time that it should be the end of this government. Sababu, the core fundamental of every government is not to do business, is not even to build roads, not even to put electricity as they usually purport to. It is to protect the lives and the resources and the property of a citizen. Now, in all manner of divination, this regime has failed in both of them. They did not protect their lives. Instead even of protecting or even failing to protect, they are the one that they are taking out lives. And now, the resources and the properties, they are not only protecting, but they are stealing and they are admitting to the public. Na bado tunanyamaza na tukisema kwamba we have a constitution, we have a document. This document is a bush where they used to hide their faces. Ukiongea, ukisema hii, unaambiwa this country is governed by the rule of law and the constitution. That is the word that I hate most in this country. They only say this when it is fashionable to them. Ukimuuliza Ruto, we need you to step down. Anakuambia, go and read the constitution. You know, this country say the constitution, you can only remove president by ballot. And tunakuja tunasema 2027 wacha tukutoe. And yet when you go out to ask a question, you are killed. But that time that you are killing people, you cannot quote the constitution. You cannot quote the constitution when it is your turn to commit an atrocity. So, good people, what I'm saying is, as we wait for 2027, but let us not fold our hands and have the false hope. The way this regime is oppressing and gaslighting us, what do you think will make difference in that 2027, that they will not force their way and continue pressing you, oppressing you, killing you, and telling you that read the constitution. Inasema kwamba president ameshinda na 50 plus 1%, and now this one have 81% because it is manipulated, and there is nothing you can do, and if you try, unagongwa. I know this kind of conversation, when we talk of revolution, people are not comfortable about it and are not ready about it. But I urge and I beseech you, let us stop this false hope. Let us not get a lot of excitements about positions, but let us try and fight the interest of the country first. And we can only do that by making sure that it is only revolution, changing of the system. The first land, Bright, the first voice about to Tusema Wakatile, draining the swamp, resetting the system. That was the voice of God, and we deviated from it. Now we are not talking of resetting the system. We are not talking of draining the swamp. We are now talking of cherry picking this one or that one. This system is meant to manipulate. It's meant to play reverse psychology on you. That when you ask this, it is you that make mistake to apologize, not the person that offended you. So, thank you so much. I don't want to take much of your time. Lakini bado tuko hapa, wacha tuendelee kusikiza wengine. Shukran sana Sesco Bright katika hiki kikao.
Haya Fabish. Unajua nimesikia ukisema constitution ya Kenya. Okay, mimi nimetry kusikiza solution unataka kunipatia as a young person. Unataka revolution. Hii revolution yenye tumekuwa nayo ni kuenda streets na ndio kukufa. Uone kama tunaweza fight Kasongo through the ballot. Kwa sababu that's the only thing imebaki. Tukisema sijui tuende street watu wanaenda kukufa huko. Mimi sioni anything. Unajua Kenya has a very powerful constitution written by the people for the people. Ni saa hii tu haiko implemented as it should be. Because our watu wako leaders wame twist it into a shield for their own interest. Sisi wananchi tunaumia, yes. Tunafaa tukue clear tu, sovereign power belongs to the people. Na tunajua government is not a property for the few people wenye wako huko juu ya wananchi. But wewe sema tuko na false hope hapa. No. Kasongo mimi naona tu the only thing you can do ni kumtoa through the ballot thing. Mimi naona it's high time people arise to demand the constitution to be applied exactly as it is written. Otherwise tukienda another bloody way, mimi sioni kama tuta have to bring Kenya place yenye tunataka. Power must return to the people, because without the people there is no government and there is no legitimacy. Tukisema siji tuende the street tena. Anyway, everyone has got their own opinions that I feel like. Bright.
Yeah, thank you, Sesko. Thank you, my brother Fab. Let me just chime in before you hand over to the next speaker. Yeah, Fabish, I understand your frustration. I understand your cynicism, especially towards a political establishment that is very, very, very ingrained in every aspect of our economy. They control some of the constitutional bodies that have been set up to safeguard our interest. But I take comfort in the fact that if you watch the last election, where this Kasongo was coming up against people who are in power, and that he was able to, through a crafty campaign where he aligned himself as a Christian, as a hustler, and misrepresented who he was able to ride into power. I'm looking at this ballot revolution in two ways. One, if you with the law that we have, the election law that we have, the results, unless it changes, the results of the polling station are final, right? That's number one. That if Bright votes in Dagoretti, Kawangware primary school, whatever is declared there is final. It cannot be changed. It's not like what used to be there before, where things that happened in Kawangware are reported differently at Bomas. That's number one. Number two is that we are also living in a revolutionary moment. That for the first time, people have a reason to go out and vote. The problem is, who is the person they're voting for? And that is the problem that we are trying to solve right now. That for you to solve that problem, you need to be in a political party or part of a political party that truly represents the wishes and aspirations of the people. I think the risk with, and that option is there. Look, a revolution can either be bloody, can be through a ballot. It's happened in history over time. The risk now is that we've not exhausted our options. I believe that in 2027, if the government installs itself against the wishes of the people, that will not be allowed to pass. I believe, and I will be one of those who will not allow that to pass. So I think without back and forth, I'll hand over the mic to Malia Davis. If you're there, please go ahead.
A right of reply under 1 minute.
Fabish,
under 1 minute.
Let maybe Malia has something to add on that same conversation, and then we come back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm concurring with what Fabish is saying, that it doesn't make any sense for Ruto to come and accuse people of something that he himself benefited from or benefits from and instigates. Because even the impeachment of Wamunyoro, he bought those senators so that they can impeach the guy. They didn't have any real reason to impeach him, but he bought them. So he's also one of their customers. So it's very, when somebody has no moral authority, we cannot take him seriously on anything, because he lacks the moral authority. There's no way you can be drinking wine and you're preaching water then you're expecting people to take you seriously. You know, even those politicians, I'm sure they were like, of all the things that you can come to bring in front of the nation, you know, like, I mean, he's, you know, it's like the devil now coming to accuse somebody, you know, like the way he was accusing Job to God. So him himself is full of corruption. He's the high priest of corruption. Then here he is again coming to talk about how other people are corrupt. How? And yet him himself is a beneficiary. I'm sure he has been on those, he has also been on the receiving end. He has received proceeds of corruption, courtesy to his dockets and all that. So let somebody else be the one to talk about corruption, but not William Ruto. He has no moral authority to talk about corruption. He is the high priest of, he was baptized the high priest of corruption for a reason, because he's extremely, and he is a corrupting force. You have been seeing how he has been corrupting. He started by corrupting members of parliament who are from the opposition and went on like that. You know, anybody who he finds to be a threat to him or he wants to corrupt, he just corrupts the person with money. So I don't understand really. He lacks moral authority to tell us anything about corruption. Let him talk about other things, but not corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Can we have Lispa who can speak, and then we go back to Fabish, then Dikizo, and then I think we can close unless there'll be any more people.
Thank you so much, Bright. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lispa Murugi. I reside in Nairobi. My home county is Embu. I'm currently, my background is in IT. I serve as the CEO of The Bridge. It's a economical empowerment initiative for boy child. I'm also serving at DNA as National Secretary Special Programs. And I'm looking forward to serving as Nairobi Women Representative. Now, I think for me, I'm usually more into actioning things. And it's okay to look at the loopholes so that we know we can address the things the right way, the problems that we have. But currently, I think we should think of a strategy at as DNA. We should think of a strategy to be able to be a different kind of team. And I also have a suggestion. I'm not gonna talk too much because I have young ones here. Is it possible for DNA to be a system on itself, so that on its own, so that when we are telling young people to join us and we are telling everybody else, even our parents, that it is a chama or it's a party for everybody and it's gonna bring change? Is it possible to create a system within DNA party that brings change to the people? That is my big question. I'm more into actioning ideas. So if we can go ahead and maybe someone address the part of making DNA a system for the entire nation. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Bright.
Aya,
You're lost.
Fabish,
Okay.
you can talk. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to respond to Sesko and Bright. Kwanza, you know, when we talk of revolution, there are many ways of revolting, not necessarily only the streets. There are a lot of ways that you can bring revolution. And it has happened in many countries and they have succeeded. So it's only need a commitment, sacrifice, and intention. Like, you know, we can do tax boycott. We can, paralyze a lot of things, not necessarily going to the street. But anyway, now let me give you some few instances on why I said this election will be sham election under this regime. Because I am a proponent. I agree. What DNA are saying, the manifesto of DNA, they are perfect in place. And this is actually the party that we can say it is party for the people. But my concerns are with this regime. I'm a proponent of, those who are saying we need to have a transitional government formed by DNA and other Kenyans of goodwill to be able to manage this election, not election to be managed by Ruto that does not respect constitution. Now, recently you heard about ghost schools. And these ghost schools, unasikia walikuwa wanapata, wanapewa pesa, and in papers, they are seen to be existing. Why they are not there? So you would think that it only exists to siphon the money, but it is beyond that. The same ghost schools that are going to generate the voters, the ghost voters. Okay, that is one. We were told also that now there are 3 million Somalis that were not able to register the ID cards because of the vetting. But now, since the vetting was lifted, now they have been able to register about 3 million. How to verify those information? It is difficult because the information is held by this government. But now you are told there are new 3 million registered voters. That is only in one region. By all means, the red flags of this election going hayway is already there. Not unless we say that red is our favorite color. But for me, the red flags are already in place. Now, right, I want to agree with you. I always say, I agree with you that let us explore all the options. But it is good that I register earlier. We will go for the ballot. I Fabish will support, a good young aspirants coming. But I'm telling you, we either choose revolution now, or we will still take it as an option after 2027. So we should be prepared for that. Let us not cage ourselves only through the ballot revolution, but let us understand that if it go our way, let us be prepared for otherwise. Thank you.
Haya Fabish. Unajua sikuwa nimeelewa point yako. What I know, the pen and the ballot are stronger than the bullet. And I feel like we cannot afford that power, the bloody one. The real power of Kenya lies in the ballot box, through voting, through civic participation, through defending our constitution. Tukisema tuachane na constitution, tuende mambo ya revolution yenye ili happen vitu kama, Kenya does not need a bloody revolution for change. Hiyo ndio the main point. It needs the ballot. History has shown us that bloody revolutions bring more pain than freedom. For instance, hata tukienda history inatuambia hadi France, millions dies in the revolution only for a dictator. Alikuwa anaitwa Napoleon or something to take over. Tuende place ingine, Russia. Caesar was overthrown, but communism led to even greater suffering and a study and amasijui what that man was. Kenya tunatry kuambiana sahi Fabish ni solutions, unaget solution. Watu wachukua ID, watu wa participate civic participation, watu wa defend constitution, na to prepare when tutarusha Kasongo outside the nini. It's clear that 8 million people did not vote the last election. Watu wakivote sahi alafu kutendaje? In Libya, Gaddafi fell, but the country corrupts in endless chaos. Mpaka sahi bado wajai simama. Tusifanya Kenya ikasijui ni kwa sababu ya msee mmoja. Me believe the pen and the ballot are stronger than the bullet. That is the slogan ya Kenya actually. Inafaa kuwa hivyo. Tukitry kuonesha tuko na kifua
Sesko, it's not the pen and the paper we used in 2022, or it has changed. Ama ilikuwa revolution, now we have a dictator. When you break that, but anyway.
Unajuaje?
Yeah, guys, we have Sesko, maybe we can have, to reduce the back and forth, and I think we've both gotten our points out. We can have Wanda, who has not spoken, to say something. And then I think Dikizo also wanted to say something.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll pick it from a point of probably what we should be doing and what should our focus should be. I look at our country and imagine there are times because of how heated presidential elections are, we end up forgetting very sensitive positions. Because to me, when I look into the parliament or the number of persons we have as senators, those that we have in the parliament, the women representatives, these MPs, the nominated ones in those very houses, the MCAs in all the 47 county assemblies. I feel like at times, because of how heated our presidential elections are, we end up looking at, or we also end up being put to imagine that it's only that one position that is sensitive. Then we in so doing, we end up losing quite a lot. When, like the other day, we have had a mention of the NGCDF being mentioned. Then all of a sudden, these MPs are agitated. Sasa wadi wanazungumzia about summoning the president, wanataka enda waombe msamaha, and all this kind of, and you look at it clearly, then you'll and they try and look into the history behind the NGCDF, then you'll realize that it's actually true. The NGCDF should not be existing as we are speaking, because the reasoning behind its formation and the adoption of the 2010 Constitution, it's true that CDF should not, because an MP will lie to you and tell you no, it is the CDF committee that takes care of the budget and the money that is allocated. But the same MP will never mention to you, they will never tell you the composition of the process in which that CDF committee is formulated. Therefore, if the entire team is corrupt and they're okay with that corruption, they're okay with this money getting into them or going, having an access to this money, then I'll imagine that we have so many people we have so many people in parliament. We have so many of these guys that we probably should be one looking at how do we figure out or how do we clean the parliament? Because the president of the day, if this person is voted in, whether they are bad or whatever, you vote in a person and you have a sober National Assembly that represent the interest of the citizens. Then from that point of view, if you need an impeachment, you will easily get that impeachment. If you feel like the president of the day is not serving it's not serving or living to what he promised and in one way or the other violating the constitution. Therefore, from where I sit, I feel like, yes, we have a responsibility here of one, getting it right at the ballot. But as we get it right at the ballot, let us not so much look into the presidency and forget the mess that we normally make at parliament. We get to a point, we elect persons that are not learned. We elect persons who goes into the parliament, they cannot debate. But because there is an constitutional budget in the name of CDF, akija akijenga barabara, we clap for this person and imagine that these guys are good. Without, forgetting that if we elected sober minds, then these sober minds are the ones that are going to enact policies that will promote manufacturing. They're going to enact policies that will address the education policies. They'll enact some acts of parliament that will probably come in and address the FDIs. Therefore, to me, at times it's not even the top seat. We make a lot of messes at the parliament level. Then how do we get it right? Come up with a political party that it is now a vehicle owned by the citizens that are patriots, citizens that are tired of the regimes that are not addressing the needs of the citizens, such that when we now have this political vehicle, you'll be able to address what happens at the nomination level, where nomination certificates are dished out to friends who end up singing now the song of their party leaders, with the party leader either with whoever will be in the government or will be in power. Like we're getting into politics, but there is already an existing MOU that if I win or if you win, we will share the government. Therefore, if we have a political party that we trust, then we'll be convinced that we'll end up even vetting the very candidates that will represent us at the county levels, candidates that will represent us at the National Assembly level, such that this person, I mean, now this person they're the only person that will give them these party nomination certificates, imagining that they are the very person that will send into parliament. And if I'm told we fail now to remove this person that we are so much interested, the presidency at the ballot, then we can now be so sure that we have representatives at the National Assembly that reasons and acts the way we reason and the way we would imagine and wanted to act. And in that case, we'll be so sure that the 290 members of parliament will easily do an impeachment because they reason like us, they think like us, they share an ideology, then they share a vision. Kwa hiyo wakati mwingi tunapoteza muda tukiangalia president, alafu tunapigia watu fake kura wanaenda kama MPs, au watu fake wanatoa speaker fake, then sababu ile presidency inaweza ikaibiwa raisi. If this guy anaiba kura, inakuwa raisi nimewaibia kura, na mlipigia MPs fake, ninaweka kwa mfuko. Sasa nyinyi mnalia for a cycle of 5 years. Then 5 years ikiisha, you go back to the same cycle, keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Bright.
Thank you so much, Wanda. I agree with a lot of your sentiments, especially to do with the work of Parliament. Ideally, in our democracy, Parliament should be performing oversight duties. They don't need to be doing development work. That is what the Constitution envisaged. It's only that our leaders have mutilated the Constitution in cahoots, of course, with the executive, who is now pretending to be holier than thou when he's the most corrupt, as one person put it, the chief priest of corruption. As we come to and close, I'd like to invite Dikizo, maybe, unless there's anyone else, please also chime in. Dikizo, you can have the word.
Okay, thank you, Bright. What I can say, I just want to focus on ballot revolution in 1 or 2 minutes. There's nothing wrong with our constitution. Our constitution is the perfect. It might maybe kuna malipa kutwik, but it's the perfect. The problem is it's not being implemented. Unaelewa? It's not being implemented. Now, what do we as the people need to do? We cannot. Nasikia nani Fabish was talking about revolution yenye bloody. For an armed struggle ikue, lazima nyinyi mkue armed nyinyi pia kama citizens. You have to be armed. You are not armed. So you can't fight against watu wenye wako armed unless a lot of us will die. But hatujafika hapo. Hatujafika hapo. We still have other options. Na hata kama hiyo ifanyike, maybe we did the June 25th thing and then power iliangukia wananchi, who would have benefited because you didn't have an alternative power structure. Bado ingeendea wengine. Unasikia? Haingekuwa mwananchi bado angechukua. Some people ndio wangepata hiyo benefit ya kuangukia hiyo kitu. It would have never been benefited the people. I think Sesko has given some examples. Mnatoa dictator, power inaenda kwa even worse people. Because you don't have power structures. So, hapa tunaongelea alternative leadership, alternative political structures zenye ziko outside the ones that they are currently there. Vitu kama ODM, vitu kama UDA, we know what they are. They are personality politics, personality driven. youth kama Sifuna, and let me use the ODM example because me I come from Nyanza. I'm in Nyanza. ODM, if youth kama Sifuna and Babu Owino cannot alter, given their gravitas, they cannot always reform your chama. Sasa, how just a young person like myself, how am I supposed to enact change in that space? Ndio maana tunasema we need to identify other political structures, because unataka kuoverturn mtu kama Ruto, Kasongo. But me, I think Kasongo is a consequence of a system. We don't need to focus on him. Let's focus on the system yenye ilimleta hapo. System gani ya tribalism, system gani ya political parties zenye zina drive agenda ya mse moja instead of agenda ya the people. So we find parties that thrive on driving ama want to be sustained by people-driven narratives. That is the alternative. Tuachane na siasa wakubwa, tunarudi kwa siasa wananchi. Na inaanza pale kwa MCA level. How are you guys organizing yourselves to get an MCA mwenye ameletwa na the people? Si ati ameletwa na chama, sijui Raha amembeba mkono, ama kwa sababu affiliated to Kasongo. No. You as the people, how do you organize yourselves? To get leaders that you want, nyi wenyewe mnamtaka, si ati ameletwa na some big party ama some big don, unasikia, some tribal overload. So these are the things that the youth are talking about, and DNA hapa ndo penye inakuja, unaget. So we are leaderless. Me, I still believe we are leaderless because tuko na leading ideas. We have ideas that ni non-negotiable. Hiyo ni yenye hata even if DNA contravene those ideas that we believed as a movement, tunasema sasa nyinyi penye imefika hapo ndo mwisho, si tunaendelea na safari yetu, unaget. So we are leaderless in that sense that we have leading ideas, not leaders wenye wameka hapo tunawafuata. We are no longer following personalities, and this is what I want people to understand. So for us to organize as the people, we need a political outfit. They can be 1 ama 2 ama 3 kuwa part of political party. Lazima tukuwe na political organization. Na DNA ime come through, imesema we are here, we are ready to engage the young people. We want it to be a youth-driven party. Yenye ina drive youth-driven ideas, youth-driven nini aspirations. Unaget? Na pia wanataka kufuata katiba. Unaget? So how do we organize at the MCA level to get, so DNA is just a vehicle. That's what I want you people to understand. DNA is just a vehicle that we need for organizing. Hatuwezi organize bila a vehicle. We need this vehicle to organize, tupate hiyo MCA position, tupate hiyo MP position, tupate hiyo governor position. Ndio sasa, even if Kasongo arudi in one way or another, venye umesema ati maybe arudi in one way or another, anapata bunge, si ya kununuliwa, bunge ni sisi. Bunge ni sisi, so we can impeach him anytime when ana defile the constitution. Governor hata akikuja na resources na amepata hatuku manage kuweka wetu, anapata MCA ni sisi. So we've strengthened the legislature. Na tuna strengthen every other oversight roles. So this is what DNA is doing. So I think I'll just leave it with there. Ni about alternative political leadership, and we need to structure ourselves. Hata kama tuko leaderless, we need to structure ourselves, because now we are aiming for political power. We need a political vehicle. We need to think politically. But si ati tuna join parties zao ama tuna conform to tribalism. Those are their systems. Now, how do we form outside these systems? That's what I think we need to be starting kufanya. Kasongo ni consequence. Once tunapata bunge fiti, tunapata MCS fiti, we might even get our good presidential candidate a win. If he doesn't win, Kasongo will be put in check. He will be atakuwa impeached na bunge yenye ni sisi. So these are not things Kasongo asitupatie headache. Let's organize first. Let's form political structures of power zinaweza chukua power. Na ni people driven. Once we do that, bana mtuka Kasongo is huyo atakuwa footnote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dikizo. As we close, I'd like to mention something that's very important. That DNA party is a party for the youth. And that means that we have the ability to occupy all positions, not just the top positions, but positions also that matter, from the secretariat, the delegates. And that means, Dikizo, that there can never be a time where we move out of DNA. We can shape DNA to be what we want it to be as young people. We have that opportunity. There's no other party that gives that opportunity. And so it's not a question of DNA changing, it's a question of us changing. So it's a question of us getting involved early, organizing early. If you want to run for office, let's have a conversation. Let's know how to support you. You're a young person. It's your first time in politics. How can we bring you up to speed for you to understand how to get involved, for you to understand how to structure your campaigns? Because politics is not, you don't just say, and I know many people have said, oh, I will run. But you can't just say I will run and expect miracles to happen. You have to put things, you have to put boots on the ground, you have to go around, you have to talk to people, you have to have an ideology. That's the other thing, that we find leaders through crafting an ideology. And the leader, therefore, follows that ideology and vision. And when they cease to follow that ideology, they cease to become the leader and another one is installed. So DNA for me is that vehicle, it's the home that will realize our potential, that will help complete the Gen Z revolution. So let's get involved and let Sesco have the last word. Alafu tufunge. Asante sana.
Haya, Bright, mnanisikia? Dikizo, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible.
Sawa basi, I think to end for that, and we'll be having such spaces on Tuesday. So we're gonna be making the posters, tunazituma, we have such conversations, we engage, tuna discuss, tunajua the way forward. Leo tumekuwa na network connections mbaya, but I hope from the next week we'll be having vitu clear too. I think we edit from there. Yeah, Bright, if you have something else unaweza sema, and please follow Bright, follow Sesco, follow Kikao, to follow each other here so that conversation iendelee even if the space is not happening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, this conversation will be ongoing. As you know, it starts small and grows bigger and bigger. So we hope for a better conversation and a bigger conversation next time. See you next time, guys, and have a good night. Thank you so much for showing up.